All right, now we are back once again with another live stream. And without saying, hopefully, we'll continue doing this because we're here to embody our truth, our individual truth, however that may play out in this life, and coming into human design. The single most important information that you are here to get from that. Otherwise, you didn't get the message of human design, whether that be me, people around me, or anybody who's listening to this. And that message sounds so simple. And we've talked about this and we've touched on this, and we will continue to reiterate this. But today, we'll try to approach it from many different angles. As you can see, the share screen has many images in front of you, and most of these images are either drawn from, taken from. All right, now we do want to share this once again. What happened? Are we having technical? Ah, ah, ah. Spotlight participant. Technical issues. I guess with all that noise around us, it tends to happen. Are we meant to just have it this way? I guess we could also do that, but let's see. Let's add to the stream. There we go. I think we can have a more interactive experience with this. So you can see these images, many of them are drawn from the wonderful website of jovianarchive.com. This is essentially the Akashic records of the information that you are possibly going to be able to embody through the human design system. So this is either from the human design system website of Jovian Archive, which is the preeminent source to get your human design information, or it is from a screenshot of from the book, The Definitive Book of Human Design by Linda Bunnell, authorized by the messenger of the human design system, Rao Rohu. And we're going to dive here and there. We're going to take many live sessions to go into this, just to drive the main point across. You see all kinds of videos, influencers, whatever the case may be, opportunists. Lucky enough, funny enough, I am a 4th, 6th profile, so there is a sense of opportunism in my design. And there's no judgment when we say opportunists. It's just the way we are here to be. Some may take that and see the human design system, and because it's not regulated, if one may call it that way, because everything seems to be regulated, and because it's not regulated, nor necessarily it should be, it's become a wild west cowboy. Like, everybody reads something about human design and they think they can do a spin-off or make it sound more uplifting or positive or more in resonance. And we talked about this previously already. We don't even know what your true resonance is. Human design system shows us that without any doubt, with absolute precision, on your cellular DNA level when you were born. And we also then see the conditioning, because the conditioning, although as a word in itself, it may have some negative connotation. Conditioning in itself, we find through the human design system, is not a negative or a bad thing in and of itself. Conditioning has a polarity of deconditioning. Both of them can work in your favor or against you, depending on how that conditioning and where and by whom is it being taken in or given, and vice versa, the deconditioning aspect of it. And you won't know any of this if you approach this from the mind. Oh, today this sounds good. Didn't work. It's okay. The mind will say, how about that tomorrow? And on and on and on we go. And then we will only face the resistance when we approach life through the mind, make decisions through the mind. And depending on our type, as we know, there are only four types in the human design system. known as the generators, being the vast majority, then the projectors, then the manifestors, and then the reflectors. If one doesn't live by their strategy and authority, then nothing that is there for you will be there for you, because you're not there to see it. You're not in the body, you're in the mind making those decisions. And although it may seem very innocent, so what if I make a few decisions? As Ra'uruhu would say in some of his teachings and lectures, he would say that you can't be half pregnant. And it's true. You either are pregnant or you're not. You're either following your strategy and inner authority or you're not. And if you're not, and if you're still looking at human design, well, it's a mental concept then for you. It is not an applied reality yet. In the hopes that it may be that for you, although we get what we get. And whether that is now or later, there's nothing right or wrong about it. But this information, don't get it twisted. There is nothing as fantastic, as transformative, as special as there is nothing like it. It is a synthesis. These are words that one needs to take time with, because these are very specific, particular words that have been applied now. It is a synthesis of ancient and modern science. It's a knowledge system through which you can understand not just yourself, you can understand those around you, you can understand different life forms, you can understand the universe, or as Ra'uruhu would call it, the biverse, because we are the infinite one that is experiencing the illusion of separation, experiencing this life as a dualistic life, as the this and that, as the mind and the body. In truth, you're neither one, but you are here to experience the combination or the quantum, or as Ra'uruhu would say, the juxtaposition of the two. These are vastly different, the mind and the body, and yet we are here living the holistic duality of the two. And how can you make sense of anything? Well, I can tell you this much from my own experiences and from understanding human design, that you cannot understand, make decisions that are valid for you, or even know which is which through the mind. The mind is there to weigh things, to say heavy, light, good, bad. And it's all subjective. But the mind doesn't want or doesn't care or can't even possibly understand what the body needs, what the body wants, what the body demands, because the body is the life. You know, I love listening to Ra'uruhu. It's not a person that you're listening to. It's a voice that is expressing the potential possibility of what it is to be you, not an idealized form of what somebody says you should be at any given moment, and not these copycats or scams that have sprung out of the original source of human design, which we will cover on some other videos if it is right for me through my strategy and authority. Because they've basically tried to negate or ignore altogether the key message of the human design system, which is strategy and authority. So with that said, I'm just going to flow with it. You see, there's 6 images shared with you. Now, you would see that we have this wonderful image that would say the 9 centers, and this is all courtesy of the Jovian Archive website. Now, I do not have a direct affiliation with them, although I'm sure on a fractal geometry level, there's a deep connection, but not in this conscious waking life, in a sense. So when you look at the 9 centers, one of the things that we learned through the human design system that came to us 1987 from this fantastic being, which is also the infinite one, like we all are, not better or worse, just unique, Ra-Uruhu, that we have actually evolved from the seven-centered being up until 1781, and prior to that for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, was it about 80 to 90,000 years, the species that we think is us now used to be a seven-centered being. So all the philosophies, all the teachings, all the sciences have been according to that structure, to that construct, to that form of being, the seven-centered being. And in and of itself, it was perfect in the time that it was still here. And after 1781, the last 70, after 1781, there were no more seven-centered beings being born. So the only seven-centered beings that were still there were the ones that were born pre-1781. From 1781, all the newborns have come into this world, like you, like me, like your parents, like your great great grandparents. You know, you can go pretty far back up until 1781. We are nine-centered beings. We are not the same. So the rules are different. The mechanics are different. The human design system is the mechanics of the matrix, of the Maya, of the illusion. And paradoxically, it's called the absolute of the Maya being the illusion. You know, you can have a chuckle with that. But the point being is that there is a design to everything. This infinite cosmos works in fractal geometries from the Big Bang, if you want to call it, up until this very moment in the ocean of consciousness. And we're so lucky to be here right now, whoever it may be, whenever you may be hearing this from. Because it's not like for the rest of our lifetimes, and our children, and our grandchildren, and go on and on and on, for the rest of the lifetime of this family of humans on this planet, there will not be any more information that you can use. We're not gonna evolve beyond the nine-centered being. So take this as your way of life, so you can not only survive but thrive. So here we can see that we have nine centers. I use the analogy, and I picked up also from the definitive book of the Human Design System by Linda Bunnell. Absolutely highly recommended as a starting point, but also as a reference always. That if you'll take the analogy of if you yourself are a nation, it's easy for people to relate to that in the way that we live collectively now, the nation states. Imagine that you, when you look at your body graph, do not go away from the body graph, please. It's not about the gates here and there. First, you start with the holistic view, because only through that you can operate through your strategy and authority. It's not about you finding out all the gates, all the lines, which I've done, which I've loved to do, but that always brings you back to the so-called surface, because you are living life on the surface, and you can only navigate the surface through what is deeply inherent in your design on the deepest level, and you can only access that through your strategy and authority, and never through the mind. The most we can get through this beautiful tool of mind we can observe and hear and share and experience is, hey, there's this human design system. It shows the absolute of the way you are here to be. And there is a key to how you can work this vehicle. And the vehicle will take care of itself as long as you don't interfere with it. Then your mind can take its rightful place and sitting where it's sitting and watching this movie of life, and you having your experience that is for you. You don't have to reach for your experience. Some of us are here to fight. Follow your strategy and authority, then you know what fights you're meant to get into. Some of us are here to reproduce. Follow your strategy and inner authority, then you know who are you here to reproduce with. Some of us are here to travel the world. Follow your strategy and inner authority, and then you know which parts of the world you're here to see. Some of us are here to meet people, to have deep relationships with people. You will never know who are for you if you don't follow your strategy and inner authority. You can keep going on with any aspect of life, any experience. Only strategy and authority will take you through that experience as your authentic self and give you the protection that you need in order for you to be correct, which means to be healthy, which means to survive. But not just that, we're more than just about surviving, we're about thriving. Human design system is the perfection of what it is to be this form. Not perfection in the sense of that there's some idealized form that we all have to embody, whether that be the prophets, the teachers, the philosophers, the superstars, the celebrities, whatnot. No, it's about being your unique self. And we live in a global cycle, which is ending. We have 2 years and 2 months left. We have lived in a global cycle where individuality is not something that is encouraged by the collective or by the community. And you're going to be put under pressure, just like I am. Yesterday was an experience where one of the dearest people to me, who I consider as a mentor to me, who I love very much, who's been there with me since I was a child and all of that stuff, asked me something. And I'm a sacral authority being. I have a in the moment, response. Okay? Is not a gut feeling, it's a guttural sound that comes from the testicles or the ovaries. That's where our sacral energy is, the lower abdomen. Then it moves up to our gutturals, where this unlearned, unconditioned sound is and has been there since the moment that you became you. And that is a guttural sound of So that leads me to what? That leads me to this image right here, inner authority. If you take anything with you for your human designed embodiment experiment, this is the main thing: strategy and inner authority. And it is the decision making that is the most important thing. You know, you can find out, you can speak to AI or do some online searching. We make about 35,000 decisions daily, every person. Some of them are unconscious, involuntary, it's the bodily mechanism. Some of them we approach through the mind. It may be mundane, it may be important, it may be smaller things that we don't even pay attention, like, washing our hands. All of these are all decisions. And inner authority is to align you to what is correct for you. And depending on how radically you can embrace this, whether that is moment to moment, depending on your inner authority, like myself, with everything, like myself, or you apply it into the major decisions in your life, such as relationships, leaving or getting into a workplace, environments, relocation, education, having children, major decisions in life. So you don't just jump into it and feel like, mother karma is punishing you, but rather feeling aligned with your dharma. Dharma means you surrender to what you are. You get it? It seems almost the same. This life is not about, a I don't know if to call him a client or a friend or a student, whatever he identifies with. He may be seeing this right now. Life is not a problem to solve. Life is an experience to be had, and to just be aware and to see what is happening. And the inner authority is what gives us our definitive truth as a individual self. This may or may not be approved or liked by those around you. This is part of the challenge, because individuality is not something that is encouraged. On the contrary, it's something that we consider as narcissistic, bad, so to speak. Okay, as egotistic, bad, kill the ego, so to speak. Not understanding that everything that is in life has its own function, but it has to function correctly, properly, And not everything that is there is necessarily for you. And how do you know all of this? How do you navigate the hundreds of decisions in a month that are important, or the tens of decisions in a lifetime, or that one single decision to get married, to have a kid, or to go to a workplace, or to relocate? That one decision can be the deciding factor. If you want to play Russian roulette, well, I guess the mind will give you that. I have nothing to sell you except all kinds of things that you will temporarily think you gain from think, but not really have actual benefit. So, inner authority and quoting Ra'uruhu, what you can trust to make decisions, and it is never the mind. The mind has its function, but before you're aligned to the body, forget the mind. Okay? So we have different authorities. We have 7 authorities, but we will cover the main ones today because it's about, this is the way it resonates with me in this very moment. The largest population, almost half of the humankind, has a solar plexus or emotional authority. So what does that mean? Now, I have this sense that I almost want to jump to the sacral beings because we have a moment to moment to moment authority that is always available in response, while the solar plexus being can actually be different types. It can be a generator, it can be a manifestor, it can be a projector, right? So there you go then into the nuances, and then we already see that we have different waves depending on how your solar plexus center is defined. And these are waves that you are in from the moment that you come into this life. This wave does not turn off for as long as you're breathing. And how do you know when to make that decision? When you face something, you see something that comes in the moment of wherever you are in that moment in your wave. And without getting too technical with this, you see that they have different waves, different frequencies, and the way in which they operate. You know, we have the tribal, the wave that is based on need, on sensitivity to the needs of the tribe, you know, needs for community, needs for shelter, needs for food, needs for God, needs for spirituality, needs for connection, marriage, relationships, all of that. And it works in a specific wave. And if you are an emotional solar plexus authority that has one of these channels, that means that you are constantly moving up and down this sort of wave. It's called the cranking wave. So let's say that you're in your wave. Something happens that you feel like, I don't like this. Somebody did something. I'm not okay with it. You feel kind of like a little drop, right? But you're okay. It's part of the family. It's part of the community. It's your wife. It's your child. It's your husband. You let it go. You let it slide, and then you're feeling okay. You're feeling better, and something else happens. You know, the cranking up, and then now it gets cranked up, until you break off, or whoever has a emotional definition, they basically have this crash that may come as anger, as frustration, as whatever it may come through, or it just may come out as something where you lash out. And this may be very dangerous when it becomes personalized, because you may be on your high end and you go home, your wife or your spouse or your children say something, and you now go into your crash. It is so easy while you're here and something happens to say, you are the reason for me feeling this way, not realizing that it's actually your emotional wave that you have no control over, nor are you here to control it. All you can do is ride the wave, surf the wave. And if somebody, half of the other half of humanity who has an open solar plexus, right? Open solar plexus, this is where we come into another notion of conditioning. So you see, we're touching on different aspects here, and I want to keep it, you know, as natural as comes for me, because these are all interconnected. You know, you look at your body graph, and if you already haven't, go here, scan this QR code, play the pause button. This is, you go to Jovian Archive or any other place, but make sure that it is either Jovian Archive or HumeDesk app or My Body Graph, because these are accurate. Don't play around with sidereal, with West Eastern. Just go with the regular Western tropical astrology, how the measurements are taken. Okay, don't play that multi-layered game. You're going to just confuse the hell out of it. Do not tinker with the system. The system is perfect as it came to us. You just need to apply it. So you see that we all have in our body graph, which is a fantastic way of describing our being, it's a holistic body graph. You see that not only we have the red and the black, the black being your conscious, something that you recognize as yourself, who you think you are, and then the red is something that is in your body, in your unconscious, which you do not have any conscious access to, which is always at play, depending on how it plays out in your body graph, whether it's in an undefined center, or is it in a defined center? Is it part of a channel gate or whatnot? So, but you see that you have some centers. Now, this is just for illustration from the Jovian Archive. You have some centered, not cut like this, but that may be completely white or have some gates colored in, but the center itself is white or open or receptive. You see, openness does not mean that there's a problem with it or that it does not work or that it is not on. It just functions differently. It functions as a receptive capacity. So see your open centers as receptors. Every center, every gate, every channel is a possible receptor looking for what it stands for, but it does not have itself. So when you look at a open emotional center, right, solar plexus center, and half of humanity have an emotional authority, whether they live by it or not, they're constantly in this emotional wave. And then you, like myself, happen to have, like half of humanity, an open or undefined solar plexus. That means anybody who comes into your space, into your electromagnetic field, which is 2 arms lengths every side. We talked about this earlier. Your aura, this is defined according to your type. So they come into your space and then you take in their emotional wave, but not only take it in, the openness of ours acts as receptors that acts as an amplifier. So you take it at 200% according to Ra'uruhu. And you can sense this yourself once you go into your experiment and become more aware. So an emotional person who has their set wave comes into your space as a non-emotional open solar plexus. Now you take their emotional wave and not only take it in, you amplify it twice the amount. So it comes out distorted. So this person comes up with their cranked up energy, which they have nothing to do. It's not their fault. It's nobody's fault who they interacted with. It's just the wave. Okay, they can attribute it to some happenings, but that's not really the correct way. It just is what it is. And this person takes that and then amplifies the extremes, the highs and the lows, and not understand what happened. And everybody else thinks that this person is out of control, emotionally unstable, because they don't have a mechanism to deal with that. That's not their nature. They're receiving somebody else's emotional wave, and they're being conditioned by that. So again, whether you call it openness, receptive, or conditioning possibilities, inherently there's nothing wrong with that, because this is where we get to experience life as something else than what we are. But when we act from the mind, we get identified, because the mind likes something new, always looking for something new. And whenever it finds something new temporarily, it identifies with it. In some cases, it may identify with it for a very long time because of the connections we have. Let's say our mother. We get conditioned by our mother's body graph, by our mother's design from day one, not to any doing of themselves. It just happens this way. And the mind gets very distorted, very confused, thinking it is what it is not, wanting to be what it cannot be. And then this is where you meet your signpost of frustration for generators, anger for manifestors, bitterness for projectors, and disappointment for reflectors. That just means that you're not living as an embodiment, you're living through the mind. And these signposts are not bad. So as a generator, if you feel frustrated, don't feel like you dropped the ball. It's just that, hey, time to go back to my authentic self. And if you feel satisfied as a generator, that means yes. So it's not like you hold on to, I have to feel satisfied 24/7. No, you're going to oscillate, but the way to be in your authentic embodiment, your signpost of satisfaction, which is there for generators, that's only possible through strategy and authority, aside from hit and miss cases. Okay. And then your aura, your electromagnetic field emanates satisfaction. That's how we change the world, not by trying to save the world. We hear all of this. You want to change the world, start from yourself. But it's not so much change yourself, it's about be yourself. And how do you know what yourself is when we have so many layers of conditioning that you've taken on through your open centers? If you happen to be a split definition, then it's through the splits. If you happen to be, triple split, quadruple split, it plays around, and there's all kinds of conditioning from centers, gates, and channels. And when you start your experiment, this is what means the 7-year deconditioning process. Because then, from the moment that you start your experiment, through your strategy and inner authority, then your cellular cells are being renewed with alignment. Say no more to conditioning on my cellular level. Now you can say the cleanup, the deconditioning starts. And every decision that you make from your strategy and inner authority brings about the authentic cells that you came with as your genetic makeup into this world. Then you can start embodying yourself. And it takes 7 years for a major cleanup. Critical mass will be reached in 3.5 years. And this is going to be a way of life for you if you live by strategy and inner authority. Now, for emotional authority, solar plexus people, half of humanity, whatever type you are, you have to be the most patient. The most patient. If you are an emotional projector, you have to be ultra patient. Because not only you have to wait for an invitation, which is your strategy, and then you have to say, let me think about it, because you still have to go through your emotional wave, and you can't just jump at the invitation when it comes to you, because you may be on the down end of your wave and have this suffering part of the wave. You're like, nothing makes sense, I don't want to do anything. While that may be correct for you. And you may be on the flip side, on a high end of your wave, high like a kite, if pardon my word, and then be like, I'm so hopeful. The first one comes and says, I invite you to be part of this project. You're like, yes, I've waited for this 3 months now, 6 months now. This is finally it. I'm going to jump at it. No, you have emotional authority. You have to go through the entire wave that may take hours, days at least. At least you have to sleep on things, but this is not something you can time. Okay, somebody said, I'm an emotional authority, I'm going to sleep one day on it and then make my decision. No, your process is your process that even your mind cannot get to dictate. It may take you days, it may take you weeks, it may take you months. And in the meantime, if that opportunity that presented itself, whether you were a projector and you got an invitation, or you got something to respond to as a sacral being who is also emotional authority, and you're like, that means go. Yeah, your sacral, go. But your sacral is in the moment. You are an emotional authority being. That means you have to then still write the weight out. Let me think about it. And in the meantime, while you're thinking about it and letting your wave ride, or riding your wave, if that offer, if that possibility disappears, guess what? That's when you show gratitude to your inner authority, because it saved you a whole lot of trouble. It's aligning you. And the same person may come back again. Doesn't mean that person is now there for you. You still have to go through your inner authority. But once you have a level of clarity, and as Ra Uru shares with us, for emotional authority beings, that clarity isn't 100%. Anybody who waits out their wave will know. And for me, as a completely open, undefined solar plexus, I've had the pleasure and the and the suffering of experiencing all kinds of emotional waves. But I also learned to find spirit in that. And it only comes when you let the wave settle. It is underneath the wave, just like the cosmos or the ocean. There is the stillness that is beneath all of the waves that is being made on the surface. And you can only get there through patience. As Ra Uruhu says, which is tricky because all that exists is now, and he understood that so deeply, awakened indeed, but awakened not as if something better than others, just awakened and surrendered to this experience. I'm able to understand as a completely open solar plexus being that there is the possibility of spirit underneath these emotions, but that won't really be there for us until 2027, and that won't really be inside of us. It will be outside of us. And I know none of this really makes sense because we try to go there through our logic. And our authority is not logical. Like in the 35% cases, like myself, sacral being, moment to moment to moment. I don't know why my sacral says meaning yes, or meaning no. I don't know. I can intellectualize it. I have a defined ajna, so I can conceptualize it. Yes, I can, of course, But in truth, the sacral is what? Is one of the four motors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sacral, one of the motor centers. It is mechanical. It is not emotional. So people who have this, I have this feeling. No. It's a guttural, mechanical, unemotional as response. Listen to this. Sacral authority beings, listen to this. Would you like to do this project? I know it's so easy to miss. For me, in my initial research and studying of human design, because really it got lost in translation when you listen to all kinds of people with their explanations of what inner authority is, and you kind of sidestep what Ra Uru so clearly, so many times says to us sacral generators. It's a guttural sound that comes from here. Or there may be slight nuances to it, but pay attention to children before the age of 3.5, especially. Just pay attention. If you have a generator child and they're not 4, 5, 6, 7 years yet, even then it's okay. You'll hear it, but especially then, you'll see that before they start developing the language skills, they do speak. And they speak in sounds of honor that. Honor that, respect that when that being says no matter how much you want to tell them, do this, do that, within reason. I know you're a parent. I know you set the rules and all of that. But if you are here to honor your child, you have to understand their design. This information really isn't for adults. If you happen to be an adult and you're living by your strategy and inner authority, fantastic. You are one of the lucky ones, as am I. But this is really for children. Yes, we will also apply it in terms of organizing into small groups and larger groups for not just surviving, but also thriving, whether that be for materialistic endeavors or just for building, your own life in a healthy way, no matter where you are. You want to go off grid, all of that. You want to build a company. Companies won't really exist in the future in the way that we understand them to be. But anyways, you can do all of that. Community, yes. But first and foremost, you have to know how to be as yourself. Most people won't get this chance. So if you have a child and you hear this, this is more so for your children. But how can children receive it if the parents don't? You see, this is why adults become so important. You are sort of like a gatekeeper to your children. And if it's in their fractal, if it's their destiny, they will receive it. Same as you, same as me. So when you are a sacral being, it's not a feeling, it's a sound. Don't get cutesy with it. Don't get demure with it. I know. I've heard some TikTok, trending TikTok videos, and you get all this funny stuff that we can use to be a little bit, easygoing and have a laugh with this, not to be too serious. But when you get this opportunity, oh my goodness, what a waste opportunity if we don't take this. But not everybody around you will appreciate you for doing that because they project on you. They want to see you in a certain light. You should be a certain way. You are a son, you are a husband, you're a wife, you're a child, you're a student, you're a teacher, you are, a member of society. You have to do this and that. Yes, all of that is there for you correctly if you follow your strategy and inner authority. And for a sacral being, 35% of the planet, there is no better design, there is no higher authority, there is only your inner authority. And whatever inner authority you have, you individually have to exalt that as your divine compass, your divine way of navigating this plane of life. So, me as a sacral being, I would say I'm so lucky to be a sacral being. I have a mechanism of decision making in the moment, moment by moment by moment. There is no decision for me to be made if I do not have this sound. The rest of the time, I am just watching. My body may go to the gym. I'm going to watch the gym exercise, my body getting into it. Me getting out of my headspace and getting into my body, my health, my body becoming healthier, all of that. My body goes into nature. I'm going to be watching nature. This is what my body took me to. And then somebody comes to me, says, hey, do you want to do this with me? Honor that. It may be your best friend. If they are there for you, they will continue to remain there. And not only that, you live in life according to your strategy and inner authority. That makes your energy emanate and vibrate as a sacral generator being, with satisfaction, with alignment, with correctness, that will then allow others to feel that in themselves. And all you had to do is just be you. You think I'd do any videos if I didn't have my sacral give me a So if I have breaks in between, it's because my sacral hasn't given me an to do other live streams. This is how it works. I'm a sacral being. I could keep going on and on and on and on. But I learned through hundreds of experiences in my life of not knowing what to say yes to, what to say no to. Saying no to the things I could have said yes to, could have been correct for me, and saying no, yes to the things that are not for me. So now when you stand on your own inner authority, now the very loved ones, the very ones that you would in a way die for, are going to put you under further challenges of the game. Let's see if you can embody this. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your spouse, your best friends, your mentor. No. What is this system? Drop it. It's a selfish system. It's a bad system. It's a pseudoscience, a whatnot. Speaking from a place where they have no place to speak from. No understanding of what this is. But this isn't for others. It's for you. I get it. I get it when Ra Uru says this is not for the masses. This is a one person at a time. And when it's for you, you get it. This person approached me, says, this and that about human design. And it took only a few audio messages with this person, not very long. And he got it as much as one could get. He's like, I get it. Time to grow up, stop being a baby, and live my design. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. As a sacral being, I feel myself to be so lucky that I don't need to wait for the emotional wave. But if I was an emotional being with a solar plexus authority, I would feel so lucky because I can go through the depth of things. When you say yes to no as an emotional authority, solar plexus being, yes to no to something with your inner authority, then everybody who recognizes you for what you are will understand that you made that decision by going deep, low, and high to make that decision. As a sacral being, I don't need to wait that long, but at the same time, I don't have the depth that you can have. I mean, we're just looking at it from authority level. We're not looking at from our left and right, which is our variables. That's another thing that's more advanced. But forget anything about this gate, that gate. None of that works out the way it's here to work out if you don't follow your strategy and inner authority. None of it. And you have nothing to prove to anybody. This is not to try to explain yourself to anybody else. So listen to this. We talked about the solar plexus. We talked about the sacral. Now, Rao Rahu focused on generators for, I don't know, 10, 15 years of his life when he taught human design, because he knew that a awakened generator will transform the world. So if you are a generator like myself, the best service you can do to you or to anybody else around you, whether you are one of self-service or other service to others, it is to be aligned with what you are really here to be, and all else will fall into place, but your mind will not trust this. So you can experiment in the way that you feel comfortable, maybe with smaller decisions until you get to bigger decisions. But really, this is about applying it to your major decisions in life. You just got to get into a point. Either you jump in both feet, like I always do with this, to experiment fully to see, what is this? I don't want to be told what this is. I want to be experiencing what this is. Well, follow your strategy and inner authority. Then whatever open centers you have, whatever splits or definitions or that or this, anything, it will not catch you. And it will play out in a way that it will give you the circumstances and the people who condition you because of your receptivity, but it's only going to be healthy for you. You're going to have the interactions that you're here to have because you followed your strategy and inner authority. How do you know you're not following your strategy and inner authority? By recognizing the not self signs: generators, frustration; manifestors, anger; projectors, bitterness; reflectors, disappointment. How do you know that you are following your strategy and authority? Well, the flip side of the guidepost: satisfaction for generators, peace for manifestors, success in the way that they see success for projectors, and surprise for reflectors. But this is all mental if you don't apply your strategy and inner authority. All. Yes, we can look at your not self strategies so you can know where you are in this very moment. And this is the percentage of the population of the planet. And this is a pretty large sample group. It's about 40 million people through which these numbers have come from the Jovian archive. 40 million people have basically done their body graph charts, and we can see that based on that information, which we can apply to the global population, that we have these percentages of people who have these centers open. So you have 70% of people, whenever you're trying, if you have an open head center and you're trying to answer everybody else's questions, that's your not self. That means that's conditioning that is pressuring you. What does that mean? 70% of humanity doesn't have an original thought. Whew. That means the vast majority of us, none of us really, but the 70% who doesn't have an original thought, why would you ever make a decision based on your thoughts, which are not even yours? Why? Because we have been identified with the mind. The difference between seeing life and being identified with life, that's something, that sentence right there. What is the difference between seeing life and being identified with life? But this one right here, as Ra Uru would talk about it, the open ego heart center, that's one of the most problematic open centers that we have that influences humanity. Not knowing our worth. 2/3 of the planet have an open heart center. Not knowing your worth and always trying to prove yourself, whether by working hard, making money, getting that status, getting some degrees, making promises you can't keep, showing that you have willpower, that you can break through whatever family lineage, trauma, whatnot, all of that mental stuff. By controlling things, by having things, all of that stuff is part of there. When in reality, when you see in your chart that you have an open ego heart center, I'm quoting Ra'uruhu now loosely, verbatim, is you have absolutely nothing to prove. And guess what? Everybody will put that pressure on you that you have something to prove. Why don't you work? Why don't you be willful? All this motivational speak is right here, right here. I can, I must, I will. This is what I would listen to. And I was literally, because it's connected to our heart muscle, I was literally destroying my heart. I could feel the pain in my heart and I couldn't understand what that was until I started living by this, where my heart feels so much more relaxed. And I can tell the difference when I have somebody in my space who doesn't know their worth, who's trying to prove themselves. I can feel the heart pain. As soon as they go away, my heart is okay again. You see the difference? But all of these open centers are there to teach us, where we actually then can gain wisdom from. Then we can share our experiences, which can become potential wisdom for others. This is where our outer authority potential can manifest. Outer authority. But none of us are really yet outer authority potential. That is very unique. We don't even know what that is. All of us are just sharing what we learned from this person or that person. Somehow, some way, my inner authority is guiding me to share this information with you, because come 2027, whether this is for your children or for yourself, we won't have this ease of access to this level of detail in such measure that it will transform your life. It won't be just a mental fart. It is something that you apply on your body consciousness level, because that's really the life. The vehicle is the body. The mind is here to watch what the vehicle is here to experience. And inner authority is connected to your body. Emotions are not in your head. The sacral is not a mental concoction. It is coming without any tongue, any language. It is not learned when my sacral says or and just try it, and you will feel a sort of giddiness with your generator sacral energy when you listen to it, when you honor it. Yes, there will be people who will leave. That's not the point. Yes, there will be changes in your environment, in your relationship, but it won't be as dramatic as you think. It kind of, for me, as dramatic and as extreme, I have gate 15. Sometimes we may look at a gate individually and think that it is negative and not realize that holistically it plays out so beautifully. I am here to hold on to certain extremes instead of trying all extremes. Well, I've tried all extremes, and now I'm holding on to what seems to be an extreme of the human design of strategy and authority. And it is working out wonders for me. So that's why the whole thing of what's positive, what's negative, like exaltation, we think is positive, detriment, we think is negative. It's not so. It's only through the holistic view that you can truly understand this. And to understand this truly, you have to embody it through your strategy and inner authority. And the live is about to end right now. If you missed or if you got anything from this live stream, is find out your strategy and inner authority and just get into it. When you say experiment, the experiment means live by your strategy and authority. It does not mean tinker or play around with your strategy and inner authority. So for sacral beings, if you don't live by the guttural sound, you're not following your strategy and inner authority. For emotional beings, if you don't honor the way fully, you're not following your strategy and inner authority. For splenic beings, we didn't really touch on that, but it's an intuitive level of moment to moment knowing that unless you are very well connected to it, in the noise of modern age, you will not hear your intuitive clarity in the moment saying yes or no. These are not conceptual, logical approaches to decision making. There is no pros and cons, and your mind may get in the way of, why did it say, no, no, I like this person. Well, then your sacral is not going to fight you. But the way you're going to feel the misalignment is through the not self post frustration, anger, bitterness, disappointment. If you want to experience life as yourself, follow your strategy and inner authority so you can finally experience long lasting satisfaction for generators, peace for manifestors, success and recognition for projectors, and surprise for reflectors.